A lot of agencies will just be like, if I say, here's the site, here's what I think, and they'll say, okay, great. And they'll just do it. Might not be right because I don't know everything. But with the Vuja Day team, we have good dialogue about it. And they're not afraid to say, I actually thought about this the opposite way. And I listen. So I think part of a good dynamic between a client and an agency is the willingness to listen to each other and be open to it, right? There are some times when I think people are a little afraid and then I encourage them, right? That's great. No, you can push back. I want to hear what you have to say, especially to like some of the younger team members, like they're a little intimidated, right? But we kind of get through that and it's all good. And I love hearing what everyone has to say. And I think it makes our work product better and our results better, quite frankly.
Welcome to Contrary to Popular Opinion, a podcast hosted by Vuja Day Digital. In each episode, we bring you provocative topics and novel perspectives around leadership, business, and marketing that defy the norms because exponential growth demands unconventional thinking and visionary action. So open your mind and let's get into this week's episode.
I'm Kelly McGuire. I'm one of the co-founders at Vuja Day Digital. Excited to get underway and have our guest.
Hey everybody, I'm Todd Juneau. I'm Kelly's co-founding partner of Vuja Day Digital. And today we're joined by a very special guest, Traci Warren, who is leading up direct-to-consumer marketing for one of the coolest and sweetest, no pun intended, new brands out there in the food space. Traci, say hello.
Hey, everybody. And full disclosure, this is my first podcast. So I'm going to try to make it awesome. Maybe we'll get there. Maybe we won't. But that's where we are.
Yeah, we'll get there. So just for our listeners, Traci, wow, what a background. Traci spent over 11 years in marketing at Target, or some would refer Target. So a very long background in probably some of the most toughest marketing environments you could be in. And then if that wasn't difficult enough, she jumped over to the fashion and apparel side of the world and had to support brands like Ann Taylor and another crowded and competitive world. And then if that wasn't enough, you thought you would get involved in healthcare, which is a really complicated marketing space to be in. And now you're in a food science, food innovation, just this whole new thing, which I'd love people to hear about. So can you tell us a little bit about Oobli and what you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Oobli is very unique in the market. We are the first company ever to bring sweet proteins as an ingredient into consumer food and drink products. Sweet proteins are actually found naturally in plants in West Africa. But our team of scientists have developed a way to actually make them using a process called precision fermentation, which essentially means that they can do it without any environmental impact at scale. What sweet proteins do is basically trick your taste buds into thinking they're sugar, and they taste sweet. They taste just like sugar, and they are so potent that just a tiny bit can replicate sugar. It's about 3,000 to 5,000 times sweeter by weight than sugar, depending on which of the types of berries that you're working with. So it's an amazing product. Like I said, we are the first company in the world to bring it to consumers in product form. We have a line of sweet iced teas, and we also have milk and dark chocolate. And we have a full product roadmap for the future. But we're very excited about our first products, and it's been amazing having consumers try them and give us feedback and react to that. And we're really just beginning. It's so early. We've only been selling for about a year, and we are now really ramping up our production and the number of products we have. But it's early and we're excited, and we are a very passionate group who really think that our product will make a difference in the world, both from a health impact and from an environmental impact.
That's amazing. I have to admit, I didn't think you could do much more to sweeteners out there than what's already been done. But lo and behold, somewhere in like you said, in West Africa, there's some plant that somebody discovered could be turned into something. So I love the innovation of food technology and the fact that we'll all have maybe a better experience, better diet with this type of product. I want to talk a little bit about, so your role is marketing, direct to consumer, and you've had these really big marketing roles in your past career, which means you've probably had the luxury of working with big budgets and big agencies and being able to sort of do a lot of cool stuff. And now you're in this sort of startup, venture-backed startup company. You don't probably have the big budgets. So tell us a little bit about how your marketing journey started there, in the sense of when you got there and you assessed what you're going to need to do your job and you thought about reaching out and finding a partner. What sort of things did you think you needed to go find? And then we can segue into who you found, and that being us, and how things are working.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. My career is kind of weird that way, where I started at Target and then I went to Ascena, which is smaller. And then I went to Bright Health, which is smaller. And now I went to a really like out of the gate startup. So it's been kind of a reverse traction for me, but I love it. And it's fun and it's cool because in my role, not only do I lead all of our media, both paid, earned, and owned, but I also lead all of our website. So all of our dev, our customer service, and I have a big role in running our sales on Amazon. So it's really broad. So it's fun. The bigger company, the more narrow the role. And in this case, I get to do everything. So when I took this role and started looking for partners, I had to source everybody. Who am I going to get for dev? Who am I going to have be our front end website? Who am I going to have for customer service? And most importantly, who am I going to have for media and media strategy? And as I looked around, I had a lot of history with a lot of different agencies that are versed in different things, like anybody else, strengths and weaknesses. And I actually started with an agency from my past that was just too big. And great people, great intentions, but they didn't have the focus really, nor the expertise in the CPG startup vertical to be really impactful for us. So I quickly shifted where I met Vuja. And when I met your team, there were a couple things that were important to me as we were sort of getting to know each other and talking about working together. And those were obviously the breadth of experience. One thing that I find when I've worked with agencies over the years is you have to pull and pull and pull to get them to tell you what the most important thing for a person like me is. What are you seeing out there? Because you're out there with all these different clients all day, every day. And we are hungry at the brand level to know what you know and what you're seeing out there in the market. But I don't have to do that with you guys because you offer it up and it's amazing. I used to have to put it on the agenda of every quarterly meeting. Like, I want to know what you're seeing. And then it would be just a little bit and it wouldn't be broad and it wouldn't be like, hey, we did this and this worked. And hey, we did this and this didn't work. That's invaluable to me. And I think it's been really a part of the huge value I get from working with your team. The second piece is the strategy. It's not just execution. It's business strategy. It's not media channel strategy only. Yes, of course, that's part of it, but it's a broader business model strategy. So when we have a conversation, it's like, all right, I'm a brand new brand. I have a brand new novel protein that's used in a product. Nobody knows what it is or understands it. And I have to get people to start trying it. How do we do that? What's the strategy, right? So it's not just what do you do within ABC media platform, but it's what's the overarching strategy, inclusive of who's the target audience, what's the offer, what's the value proposition, what does it look like from a lifetime value perspective. All of those things are what we talk about and what's made our relationship work so well, I think. And then I would say the third thing is just the dialogue we have in our weekly calls. Kelly is in every single one of our weekly calls and we will debate stuff, right, Kelly? Like we will go back and forth. A lot of agencies will just be like, if I say, here's the site, here's what I think. And they'll say, okay, great. And they'll just do it. Might not be right because I don't know everything. But with the Vuja team, we have a good dialogue about it. And they're not afraid to say, I actually thought about this the opposite way. And I listen. So I think part of a good dynamic between a client and an agency is the willingness to listen to each other and be open to it, right? There are some times when I think people are a little afraid and then I encourage them, right? That's great. No, you can push back. I want to hear what you have to say, especially to like some of the younger team members, like they're a little intimidated, right? But we kind of get through that and it's all good. And I love hearing what everyone has to say. And I think it makes our work product better and our results better, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think you touched on exactly what I wanted to go through when we talk about sort of agency client relationships. And one of the things I think has been really unique with how we've gotten along across the team, you know, myself included, is a lot of that sort of creativity, right? I've always noticed that a lot of our calls start out a lot more personal and kind of get to know each other. There's actually that element of kind of we've joked about looking forward to the calls and joking around and having a lot of anecdotes and stories. And it's not just, you know, numbers on a spreadsheet and stuff. And I think for me, that's been really conducive from a business perspective. There's that sense of accountability of, borderline of using the word friendship in there, but there's an element of really knowing, hey, this is a person that I'm looking forward to that call and we want to have that dialogue. But I think that creates that comfort and that willingness. You alluded to the fact that a lot of times, one of the reasons I was excited to work on Oobli is there's a lot of possibility. There's a lot of uniqueness and a lot of creativity that can come in. And there's that comfort level. I'm pretty sure I've probably thrown out 24 ideas that have been ranging from good to ridiculous, but it's at least a dialogue that we talk about on, this could be fun, or what about this? And you have a perspective and we have a perspective. And I think it's been fun to collaborate and really find the things that are exciting or practical and those types of things. So, can you talk a little bit about that on what your experience with, yes, there's the business side of a relationship, but there's also that idea that when you work with an agency or a company, whether it's us at the brand or you with an agency, these are people you're going to have to talk to a couple times a week and rely upon and believe in. And I think sometimes that gets lost when picking agencies and going through the review process. There's the resumes, there's the credentials, and there's the background, but there's also just that human connection of, are we in this together? It's pretty close to a coworker type relationship a lot of those times. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it comes down to trust, like you mentioned. Like, you got to feel safe to say what you think to everybody in the room and the team. It's about being respectful and it's about being fun. We do this work thing. I don't know about you guys, but I'm up about 50 some hours a week. So it's a lot. It's a lot of your time, and you might as well have fun if that's where you're spending most of your time, for sure. I also like how we get into brainstorming when we're working on some of the sort of day-to-day stuff, and people just throwing out ideas. And a lot of them we've actually done and they've worked really well. So I think that's an important piece to it too. One thing that happened recently that I can share with everybody listening is we are looking at starting an affiliate program. And in my last role doing insurance, we didn't have an affiliate program. It wasn't part of our media channel mix. So I'd been out of it for about 4 years. So looking to get back in and realizing that the landscape was completely different than it was 4 years ago, because now influencers have become all the affiliates and it's just a completely different situation. So ask the Vuja Day team, hey, do you offer an influencer management as part of your services? Tell me about it. What can you tell me? What happened was the individual who leads that team prepared an extremely thoughtful sort of overview and approach to how Vuja Day manages it, and talked to me about not only the services, and it wasn't even really about the services. It kind of started with, here's the objective, here's what you want to do, and here's the software you need to be able to actually pull this off. And we talked about what I've used in the past and what they've built. And I learned that Vuja Day has actually built software to help facilitate influencer management. We're going to give it a try. Like, it's that type of thing where it's not just to come at me to sell me more services. Like, I hear you have this need. Let me show you what we've done. It's also unique to find an agency that actually has taken on a MarTech capability because they see a need. They see white space in the industry. They see something coming down the road that requires solving for, and they get ahead of it. And when you have that sort of internal tech capability, I think it really makes you specialized in a way that you can customize it more easily, and you can use it to sort of test out, see what's working, and that can lead to more things. And I think what I've always enjoyed in the past has been working with an agency where if we have, as part of our normal course of doing business, we've identified a gap, what can we do to tackle that from a MarTech perspective? I've done that multiple times. And each time it's been sort of groundbreaking in that it's been a step change from what we were doing before to what we're doing now. It's happened in attribution, it's happened in just optimization, and it's almost a requirement for working in digital media because there's always that next thing you have to solve for because of the way the platforms are evolving.
So I want to step in on this, Kelly. I know you've got an answer to this I want you to talk about, but the thing that I want to highlight here about this is you're right. The idea of this sort of side company software thing that got ideated came out of literally clients coming to us saying, there's a gap here. Yeah. And in this particular context, it's influencers, and the brand saying, we've got influencers and they're out promoting our product. We can't really figure out how responsible they are for sales of this or that. And that's, of course, when Kelly's head goes 100 miles an hour and all of a sudden he concocts an idea of how to create a technology fix, if you will, which that's what's fun about being an independent agency, is that we can actually think tank that stuff and then go and sandbox it ourselves and build it. And if it solves a problem, great. But I mean, Kelly, you can maybe talk a little bit more about this, but there was a specific moment in time where that light bulb went off for you. I think it's important for people, maybe people on your side, Traci, marketers, to be thinking about like, how do I find a team of people who can help me ideate innovation to solve, fill a gap or white space or whatever. And I don't know that every agency out there has that capability or not. I know I have a Kelly and that's all I need because Kelly's just an idea factory. But Kelly, like, what was that moment? Like, when did the light bulb go off for you that now we're going to be able to maybe deploy this technology solution for a brand like Oobli, and what's the connection there?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think this will circle back around one of the things I wanted to touch on with Traci as well. But holistically, it was exactly what Traci described, which is just seeing something broken in the market and using a simple logic test of there are influencers that are called influencers because they can influence people to do stuff. That's not really what the commercial model was, right? There were brands that were randomly identifying and reaching out to influencers and saying, I'll give you a bunch of money and you create a piece of content and then I'll cross my fingers and hope that that maybe leads to something, or I'll just kind of hope for that. And then on the other side, influencers were spending all this time and energy and curating a background and then kind of waiting for any brands that maybe reached out to them, or maybe they DM'd and heard back, or maybe they didn't. And then they were taking whatever money was available to them, whether it was a good fit for them or not, because they have to make a living and their time's valuable. It just seemed very fragmented. And then even if there was a good connection and it did work out, the end consumer who was being influenced by this content, if they in fact wanted to purchase or convert on that, it was a very clunky process to go from discovery to execution, jumping through hoops and leaving apps and going to other links and all these things. And it just seems very fragmented. And, at the time I was like, there's got to be a better way. Like, we were a partner with Meta and we'd worked with them for so long and we understood there were certain mechanisms that existed, but they weren't necessarily being. So maybe through a little bit of hubris, we decided we could build something that would fix this. Little did I know it would take 2 years of back and forth and working through APIs and technologies and things like that. But we finally got there. And I think the idea of social commerce caught up. It's a long form of the same process that I think we try to apply with our clients. And Traci, you can confirm if this is it or not, which is you said a couple of times, you're not just saying this is what I need and us coming in and saying, okay, we'll give that to you, right? There's a logic test to things. There's the first question is, what should be done? What is the goal of doing this? Is this the right way to do it? And I think that's what we try to bring to the table, which is, let's just think about, we want to sell chocolate in the market. We have a sugar alternative. We want to introduce a line of teas. And then we start thinking through, well, what does that take? What is the consumer experience? What will they understand? What won't they understand? What amount of attention can we get? I think we very much, and this is a concept and a term that I use a lot. And again, I'm going to turn it over to you because I'd like to hear it from your perspective versus mine more, which is, I do feel like agencies a lot of times can find themselves in that order taking role, that sell what's being bought, that's servicing, versus that partnership role. And that term's thrown all around, which is, we are trying to achieve something and we have a level of expertise and we have a level of knowledge. Let's work together to figure out what should be done, what could be done, what are the gaps. I'd love to hear your experience a little bit more about what that means to you to kind of have that logic test, that pushback, that maybe asking questions that you haven't thought to ask, or answering questions that you're asking, not with a yes, ma'am, whatever you want, but more of a no, here's what we actually think is the right thing to do, even if it's harder kind of thing. Because I think that's where things come to life a lot more, when we are moving in the right direction and there's trust amongst us that we have the right objectives, so that when we disagree, it is a productive debate versus a disagreement, we're not giving you what you want type of experience.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I remember a meeting not too long ago when we were facing some product inventory issues and we had to make some pivots. I had an idea and I emailed the team my idea. And then we talked about it in the meeting, and someone on the team said, I actually think about it exactly the opposite. And I was like, say more. And then he was talking. I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm wrong. You're right. And I just didn't see it at the time, but I needed him to be like, hey, wake up. Like, you're not thinking about this the right way. And then we pivoted and it was great. Another thing is, you guys, anybody who's been head of a e-commerce business before knows the dreaded Monday mornings. Like, you get the Sunday scaries because you know Monday is going to be the executive team meeting. Monday, you're going to sit in the hot seat. Monday, they're going to ask you about the results from the last week. any startup has struggles here and there. It's all part of going from the 0 to 1. But I have been guilty of maybe pinging the team and being like, I want to do this instead of that. Let's switch this dollars here. And they're like, you need to calm down. We have to let it ramp. We recommend we stay. And I'm like, okay. And then I say to myself, yes, you do need to calm down. It will be okay. You will make it to Monday night. But it's that type of thing where you need the pushback sometimes because, when you're in a pressure cooker, you feel sometimes you just got to move. That makes sense. Like if I change something, it must be good, right? So the team has been amazing about that. And the other thing I wanted to say was I really appreciate the way that Vuja Day understands the relationship between content and media. How this shows up for me is when we have conversations about channels, we talk about content a lot too. And that's not usually the case. With many agencies, it's like, you just give us whatever you got and we will use it. And there's never a dialogue about this would be more effective if it was this, or you need to think about getting some more UGC because that will help this strategy work better, or you need a different landing page. Like that proactive conversation from your end and the fact that you understand the role of content being part of the formula for success is different than what I'm typically used to, which is hand it over and we don't talk about it.
It's another thing that I want to cover in there. Sorry, Todd. I just want to make sure that we're in there because, Traci, you've gone about and by all means, thank you very much. You've been very complimentary of Vuja Day and how we've come in. But I also think it's really important to think about it from your perspective. We only get the chance to come to that table when we have a client who is open to that, who is looking for that, who has that openness and willingness to that experience. And so I'd love to hear kind of where you come from in that and why some people might just I want an order taking. I want someone that's going to kind of do my vision, but how you're able to kind of have that position of collaboration and openness. And like I said, I know I've come to the table with certain ideas that, again, range on really ludicrous and out there because it's what I'm seeing in the market and certain things that are in there and some things that make sense and don't sense. And that requires a certain amount of patience and willingness to listen and think about it because sometimes what we bring to the table, especially if it's kind of an out there idea, it's not just as simple as sure, go and run with it. There's an ask on the client side of we might need some creative from you. We might need some operational things. We've talked about doing giveaways and contests and trial to purchase. And there's operational realities to if we implement some of these things. So how do you stay kind of open and seeking out not just media solutions, but overall business solutions when, as you said, you wear a lot of hats, you'd have to connect a lot of those dots if we do something sort of out of the box there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I get my patience from the fact that I have twin boys, and anybody who's had twin boys, especially now that they're teenagers, you just become patient. It's just how it is. But I've been part of a lot of really amazing and innovative initiatives, I guess maybe is the right word I'm trying to look for over my career. But it's only happened by being open and collaborative because I have never been able to do anything better by myself than I can do it with other people. It's just not the way it works, right? So I just learned that at a really early age working at Target where I had a huge team to lead. I had tons of stakeholders that I was dealing with all the time. And we really made something magical happen there. And I'm talking like the early days of we sold like 4 things on the website and, none of them had any margin and the struggle was real and just grew it. And then had an amazing experience running in one of the major apps there. And then other things too, which I don't need to get into, but they've all happened by always kind of thinking and looking and just being open and listening. I think listening is the biggest thing because there's a lot you miss if you don't listen.
It's one of the things I was going to talk about in the beginning was just the chemistry of the relationship. And I remember the first call I had with you and I told Kelly and the team, I'm like, I just talked to this woman who I think is actually a nice person. And I told Ray this morning, I said, there's maybe 1 out of every 20 clients or partners that we have the fortune of developing a relationship really embrace it. I don't know why that is. I mean, maybe in your role, I've been on the marketing brand side for one role in my career, and it's tough to be on that side. And I had an agency, but I still tried to treat them respectfully. And to be truthful, I'm sorry, CMOs out there, but a lot of you don't treat your agencies very well. And I don't really know where that comes from, but I think the success that Oobli's having, Traci, with your leadership there is 100% related to who you are as a person and your personality. because your personality is infectious and it makes people want to do great things around you. I know that's why our team loves working with you, is because everybody's like, oh, Traci's our favorite. Let's get on the phone with Traci, because the calls are always so exciting and energetic. And so just hats off to you as a marketer for having that open, collaborative personality type, and for not treating us like we're just a vendor box and you just put money in and expect to get more money out. And that's all that you really care about, because it makes what we do, I think, better. And obviously the relationship. So I want to pivot real quick to a little bit about the type of relationship we have as a business with you. And I think this is something that I can't do for everybody, but I think marketers should be thinking about how their marketing services partners can get behind the relationship more so than just collecting a fee. And so the thing that we were able to do with you is figure out a way, and Kelly and I were very interested in this. It's one of the reasons why we have our own independent company, is so we can do things like this. But with the right people, it made sense for us to figure out how to put skin in the game. And what I mean by that is we're not collecting a paycheck that is the paycheck we should be collecting. We're collecting a smaller paycheck, and we're diversifying in how our compensation is put together so that we have skin in the game. We have real money skin in the game. Have you ever seen that before? Have you ever done a deal like that before with a marketing services partner? And what feeling does it give you to be able to know that we have skin in the game as a marketing partner? Like, how did that resonate throughout the organization? And I'm just curious what your take is, because I want other marketers to hear that find a partner that's willing to do this, and you might be surprised at the type of outcomes you get.
Yeah, it's very unique. I've never had anything like this happen before. And, it's cool, because otherwise you're sort of just motivated not to get fired in a way.
Literally.
It's just kind of is what it is, but it's different. I think it gets you to a level of trust sooner and more easily, because you have a shared incentive. So anytime groups of people share incentives, it aligns them more easily and more quickly. So I think that's what it was. But I also really appreciate all of the experience you have in startups. It's pretty cool. Like, a lot of agencies don't, especially if they went from small to big very quickly. Maybe they started with more medium-sized clients. I don't know, but startup world is no joke. Like, it is tough. It is tough. There are a lot of challenges when you're this small and you're unknown, and you understand that, and you've had experience in that. What you bring to the table is steeped in learning and knowledge, and it just makes it easier for us to have really good brainstorming sessions and come to really good action plans that have worked really well for us. And we have some really good traction happening since we worked with you, and you guys were a big part of helping us unlock that.
I think it's really funny, because I think it closes the loop on some of what we were talking about earlier, which is I distinctly remember having the conversation with Todd after we first met, and we kind of talked about, okay, what would it look like to go forward? And I remember telling Todd, if we get a chance to work on this brand and this product, I think they have something really cool. And I think that if they do things right, there's a chance that they could get really big. And it really came down to the team. Is I had a lot of belief, Traci, that you would work with us in a way that meant that our work would have a high payoff. And obviously you had Allie there with an incredible background, and that's incredibly validating, and to have the leadership team that you have. But I just remember talking to Todd being like, look, if we're going to put the time and the energy to launch these products and bring them to market, I want to participate when they succeed and they take off. I see that being there, and I see the value of what you guys are bringing on the ingredient side and the product side. But it was a lot of those points. It wasn't just, hey, they have budget, or hey, they have a product, but it was, we have a chance to participate, and I want to yield the fruits of that labor if it goes where we want to go. And I'm really glad that we went to do that. But I think it just speaks to how important it is to have more than just a big budget, or to have a product to sell, or to have chemistry. Like, there's a lot of those pieces that come together in what makes a really good working relationship. And when those are in there, that's where Todd and I were like, yeah, this is a bet worth taking, because we aren't going to be shut down if we bring ideas to the table. We are going to have an openness and an ability to pull the levers that need to yield an outcome if we put some of this fee at risk and some of this work at risk to all come together. But I think it's a really cool way to highlight why a lot of those things came together and was visible so early on that we really wanted to do that. And it's funny, I remember telling Todd, I don't just want to offer this as a way to kind of land them as a client and move on, but like, I actually really want this because I think it could be something really valuable and really cool down the road. I'd not hate to, but I don't want to watch you guys go and be a multi-billion-dollar company and be like, oh God, we got a small little paycheck from that and help them launch it. So
that's the goal. The goal is to change the world and replace sugar.
In all fairness, the first chocolate bars were good. They were in the middling of the pack. These last chocolate bars are incredible. I'm still waiting to be able to get the next one. I don't want to take them from our customers, but they're so good. I mean, you guys did so good with the products and the evolution and development. And again, you guys didn't shy away when the product wasn't quite good enough. Like, you guys evolved, and that's been really, really exciting to see as well.
Well, we are back in stock tomorrow with all of our minis. So after tomorrow, everyone go to Oobli.com and give them a try.
Love it. All right. So, Traci, thank you. We covered a lot of ground. I hope there's marketers out there that are learning a little bit from their peers, because you've got a great background and are doing great work there. Is there any last minute tips, advice? It could be mom advice of twin teenagers. It could be business and branding and marketing advice. Anything, any final takeaways you want to share or not?
No, I just think it's great that we found each other as partners, and I know we'll do great things together.
Well, we are glad to. Thank you very much for your time today. You get to go be mom now. We'll let you go. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Contrary to Popular Opinion, where we challenge you to think independently, push the limits, and take uncommon action so you can achieve game-changing results in your business and your life. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button now. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.